You can set a baitcaster to almost never backlash, and the whole thing takes about 2 minutes. But 7 mistakes are keeping you stuck on spinning gear. And the biggest one isn't a setting at all. That's number 1 on this list, and it's last, because you have to fix the other 6 before it even matters. Number 7 is a knob you're probably already cranking and it does nothing for you. The reel that keeps exploding in your hands isn't broken, and it isn't too cheap. I want that on the record before we start. A bird's nest is not a defect, and it is not bad luck. It is a spool spinning faster than your line can leave it. And every single cause is something you control. So this isn't a pep talk. It's the exact order the good casters set the reel. It's the order almost no tutorial actually teaches. And it's the one fault that quietly undoes all of it. By the end, you'll know the 6 setup mistakes wrecking your casts. You'll know the 2-minute sequence that fixes them. And you'll know the single stroke error behind more nests than every knob combined. That fault is number 1. Everything before it is what you have to get right first. Number 7, the star drag. This is the wheel tucked under your handle. It's the one shaped like a little star. And if you're new to baitcasters, you've almost certainly grabbed it in a panic. Your line explodes. You feel that hot flush of embarrassment, and your hand goes straight to a knob. It's the biggest control you can see, so it feels like the answer. But the star drag has nothing to do with the tangle. Drag is the slip clutch that lets a hooked fish pull line without snapping it. It is a fish tool, not a cast tool. Tighten it, loosen it, spin it all the way down, and your backlash behavior does not change one bit. I know that sounds too simple to matter, but this is the first fork in the road. Your reel has 3 separate controls, and beginners blur them into one. The drag is for the fight, the brakes and the tension knob are for the cast. Mix those up, and you'll waste a season adjusting the one part that was never the problem. So leave the star drag alone for now. Set it firm enough to bury a hook, loose enough to let a good fish run, and forget it exists until something's pulling back. And if you want proof it isn't the drag, test it. Blow up a cast, crank the star drag hard, and cast again. Same nest. The drag never touched the problem. But now, you know which knob does what. Number 6, the line on your spool. You probably filled that reel with whatever was already on the shelf. And if a buddy talked you into braid, I understand the appeal. Braid is thin, it casts a mile, and it feels like free distance. But braid is the worst possible line to learn a baitcaster on. And here's the mechanism. Braid has almost no stretch, and it bites into itself under pressure. When the spool overruns, braid doesn't pile up in soft loops you can pull free. It welds into the layers beneath it and locks the spool solid. That's the 10-minute roadside nest you end up cutting off and throwing away. Monofilament does the opposite. Mono stretches, it has memory, and it cushions the overrun. A mono nest usually pulls apart with a few tugs. That stretch is also why mono forgives a late thumb. Fluorocarbon sits somewhere in the middle, a little stiffer, a little less forgiving. So if you're learning, spool up 12 to 15 pound mono and nothing else. That range is the learner's sweet spot. Lighter line buries deeper on a nest. Heavier line fights the guides. 12 to 15 is easy to handle and easy to cast. Mono does carry some memory and can coil in the cold, but that's a small tax for a line that forgives you while you learn. There's a second half to this. Don't pack the spool right to the lip. An overfilled spool throws loose coils off the top the instant it speeds up. Leave a small gap below the rim, about 1/8 of an inch, and if you're truly starting out, you can run it even lower. Less line on the spool means less mass spinning, and less mass means a slower, more forgiving spool. That's cheap insurance, and you get it before you ever cast. Number 5, skipping the drop test. This is the spool tension knob, the small dial on the same side as your handle. Some reels call it the cast control cap. Whatever the label, it is the single most important setting on the reel. It's also the one people set once and then abuse all season. Here's how it's supposed to work. Tie on your lure, hold the rod out at about 45 degrees, and click the spool into free spool. Then watch the lure fall. Adjust the knob until the lure drops slowly at maybe a foot per second. The spool should stop the instant the lure hits the ground. No drift, no extra spin after impact. That's the drop test, and remember it, because it comes back in the payoff. One more habit. Reset it every time you tie on a heavier or lighter lure. Now, here's the part almost nobody tells you. That slow drop is the maximum tension you should ever run. It is the tightest, not the target. When people backlash, they crank the tension knob tighter to force the spool still, and it feels like it's working. But you're now grinding the spool shaft and the tension washers against pressure they were never built to take. Do that for a few months and the parts wear, and then you'll need more and more tension just to get the same feel. The reel didn't go bad. You wore a fix into it. So set the drop test once, and never tighten past it. If you still backlash at that setting, the answer is more brakes, not more knob. Hold that thought, because brakes are next. Number 4. Misreading your brakes. This is where the retired reel techs in my comments start typing. So let's get it exactly right. Your brake system is the second line of defense against overrun, and it comes in 2 flavors that behave completely differently. The first is centrifugal. Inside the side plate, there are small plastic pins or shoes. When the spool spins fast, they fly outward and rub against a ring, and that slows it down. Because they're driven by speed, centrifugal brakes hit hardest at the very start of the cast. That's when the spool is spinning fastest. Then they fade as it slows. The second is magnetic. Magnets sit near the metal spool and create resistance as the metal moves past them. You usually adjust them with a dial on the outside of the reel, but magnetic brakes lean the other way. They're force builds against a slower spool, so they do their best work toward the end of the cast. That's the split the veterans already know. Centrifugal covers the launch, magnetic covers the landing, and a dual brake reel runs both, one for each half of the cast. Some of the better systems blur that line on purpose. Daiwa's MagForce uses a moving rotor, so a magnetic reel behaves a bit more like a centrifugal one early in the cast. Shimano's centrifugal systems added external dials, so you're not opening the reel every time you want to change. And there are digital reels now that adjust the brake thousands of times a second, doing electronically what your thumb does by feel. But the principle under all of it holds. Now the fix. Whichever system you have, start it high, set magnetic toward the top of its range, or engage most of your centrifugal pins. That's somewhere from half to 80%, depending on who you ask. One detail for the pin reels. Always set your pins in matching pairs, one and the one across from it. An unbalanced brake makes its own trouble. You might be tempted to just max the brakes and leave them there. But heavy brake all day steals your distance, especially on light lures. The goal is the least brake you can cast clean, not the most. There's also a lure weight rule that saves you here. A heavier lure pulls line hard and needs less brake. A light lure needs more, because the spool outruns it easily. Then cast 10 clean times, and back it off 1 notch. Keep going until you feel the first hint of overrun. That last clean setting is your zone. You dialed down to it. You did not crank up to it in a panic. Notice the pattern, because this is the whole secret. Every fix so far happens before you ever swing the rod. The drag, the line, the drop test, the brakes. All of it is set standing still. The guys who never backlash aren't casting better in the moment. They front-loaded the work. That's the connect the dots most tutorials miss. They hand you the same 4 knobs in a scrambled order, and they never tell you which one does what. You now know the order. Keep going, because the next mistake comes from bad advice you've almost certainly heard. Number 3. Learning on your thumb first. You've heard the phrase, educated thumb. It usually comes from a salty veteran who's been casting since the 70s, and he's not wrong. But the advice gets mangled on its way to you. Somewhere it turned into thumb being the thing you master first. The one skill that saves every cast. So beginners try to feather a screaming spool with a thumb that has no reps. They fail, they get frustrated, and they quit. But your thumb is the last layer, not the first. Here's the actual job. With your tension and brake set high, the reel is already doing most of the work for you. Your thumb only has one moment that matters, and it's at the end of the cast. Watch the lure closely. There's a point near the top of its arc where it seems to float and stall. That's your cue. As the lure starts to drop toward the water, the spool wants to keep feeding line the lure no longer needs. That gap is the overrun. So just before the lure lands, you ease the spool to a stop with light thumb pressure. That's it. Not a death grip the whole flight. One soft touch at the finish. And honestly, with the reel set right, you can learn that timing in an afternoon. Pick a target and cast short and accurate, not far and wild. Distance comes on its own, once the timing lands. And yes, I know I just told you to cast short after promising you a cannon. But accuracy first is how the distance shows up later. The thumb isn't the wall, it's the last brick, and it only goes on after the first 6. And once you see how your reel's really built, you start seeing it everywhere. I pulled my own fish finders apart the same way. More on that in a minute. Number 2, casting your calm day settings into the wind. You got the reel dialed in a parking lot on a still evening. It felt perfect. Then you took it to the water on a breezy morning, and it exploded on the first cast. That's not you regressing. That's physics. Wind pushes against your lure and slows it down in the air. But the wind does nothing to slow your spool. So the lure decelerates, the spool keeps pouring line, and the gap between them becomes a nest. The fix is a rule you can memorize. Casting into the wind, add brake or add thumb. And if it's really howling, add a touch of tension too. Casting with the wind at your back, you can loosen everything and let it fly. A hard side wind counts too, so respect it the same way. And it isn't only wind that shifts on you. A warm reel and a wet line change how the spool behaves over a long day. This is why the good casters are always making tiny adjustments between spots. They're not fidgeting, they're matching the reel to the air. Here's a simple field check. Sail a cast with a good tailwind, then nest the next one into the breeze. And you didn't get worse. The wind changed, and your settings didn't. But a small brake bump fixes it in one twist. Get in that habit, and a gusty day stops being the thing that sends you back for a spinning combo. Number 1, and this is the one the title promised. The biggest cause of backlash isn't a knob at all. It's your casting stroke. I'll be straight with you, I can't hand you a lab study with a clean percentage on this. And if anyone quotes you an exact number, they're guessing. But every casting coach I've read says the same thing, and it matches what you'll see in your own slow motion footage. The fault is the snap. New casters try to power the lure out with a hard, sharp wrist flick. They whip the rod tip through the release. That violent snap spikes the spool speed far past what the lure can pull, and it happens instantly. No brake setting fully saves a bad enough snap. You can crank every knob you own, but a hard enough snap still nests the reel because the stroke sits upstream of every setting. The fix is a completely different motion. You load the rod and you lob. It's smooth. Picture a slow arc from about 2 o'clock back to 10 o'clock in front. You let the bend of the rod take the weight of the lure and sling it. You accelerate through the stroke instead of cracking it. Think of lobbing a full bucket of water without slopping it, not swinging an axe. And here's the part that feels backwards. The harder you try to muscle distance, the worse the nest. The smoother you go, the farther it actually flies. Want the receipt? Film yourself in slow motion for 30 seconds. You'll see the snap the frame before every nest. And smooth doesn't mean weak. You can still cast hard, but hard and smooth is a long loaded sweep, not a wrist crack at the end. Best way to fix it is an open field, a half-ounce practice plug, and no hooks. Just lob, watch, and smooth it out. This is the redemption right here. If you've set the other 6 and you're still nesting, it is almost always this. It's not the reel, it was never the reel. It's the stroke. And a stroke is just a habit, and habits change. So that's the 6 setups and the 1 stroke. And the point here was never to make you feel dumb for going back to spinning gear. Half the people who quit were handed a reel with the tension wide open and braid on the spool. There was no order to any of it. They were set up to fail. You weren't. And if your Baitcaster is sitting in a drawer right now, this is the part that gets it back out. You didn't lack the hands for it, but you lacked the order, and the order is learnable in 1 session. So let me give you the clean version now, the actual 2-minute sequence, in the order that makes it stick. First, tie on a lure around 1/2 ounce, no hooks if you're practicing in the yard. Second, run the drop test on your tension knob until the lure falls slow and the spool dead stops on impact. Third, set your brakes high, magnetic near the top, or most of your pins engaged. Fourth, make short, smooth lob casts, thumbing the spool just before the lure lands. Fifth, once you get 10 clean casts, back the brakes off 1 notch and repeat. That's the whole method. Tension, then brakes, then thumb, always in that order. And the stroke stays smooth the entire time. 1 bonus tip, Match your setting to the lure, more break and tension for light stuff, less for the heavy baits that pull their own line. Do that, and the reel that shamed you becomes the reel that outcasts every spinning rod you own. 2 quick notes on gear, with honest limits. You do not need an expensive reel to beat Backlash. A well-tuned magnetic reel in the $40 to $70 range casts clean all day. And the marketing that calls a reel Backlash proof just means it ships set to heavy braking, which any reel can do. The limitation is real though. It won't cast as far on light lures with all that brake dialed in. But for learning, that trade is worth every foot you give up. And if you fish wind and open water a lot, I personally think an external brake dial is worth the small premium, only because you'll actually make the adjustments when they're a twist away, not a screwdriver away. One honest caveat on the budget reels. A few entry models feel a little rough out of the box, and the bearings smooth out with use, but they'll cast clean from the first day if you set them right. Those are the 2 calls worth making. Everything else is technique, and technique is free. Here's the whole thing, in one line. A Baitcaster doesn't punish you for being new. It punishes settings in the wrong order, and now you've got the order. Set the tension, stack the brakes, save the thumb for the end, and keep the stroke smooth. The wall you hit was never your skill. It was a sequence nobody handed you, and you just got it. One honest thing before the next video. No sponsors, and no dealer pays me. That's the point. The same badge game's on your electronics, and I mapped it in the Marine Electronics Survival Guide. One bad upgrade's a few $100. This one's about 20 once. Today's fix was free either way. The link's below and pinned. If that reel finally makes sense, the next video on your screen goes inside the tackle wall itself. 5 spinning reels that are secretly one reel, built on the same platform, and the single brand that isn't playing that game. YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so click it. And if you made it to the end, subscribe.